not a storybook. Eh. Why did it say not a storybook? It should have just said Book of Chipperilla!
The filming Daniel.
Hey guys, it's Daniel here, back with a new review. And today I'm going to be reviewing the long-awaited sequel to these movies, as well as the first of a new trilogy in this era of the Planet of the Apes saga, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. So Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes takes place 300 years after the last movie, War for the Planet of the Apes, after the death of Caesar, as he led his community of apes to freedom. And now, 300 years later, apes have become the dominant species of the planet, and humans are pretty much just going to that kind of animal stage. It's kind of like the opposite way around. And we basically follow this one community of apes, and one of the apes, named Noah, discovers some things about the differentiation of humans and apes from the past history of, and it leads them into an adventure with a wise orangutan named Raka and a human girl named May, as they travel along an adventure and have to come to face with a very brutal kingdom of apes led by the dominant Proximus Caesar. So before I talk about what I think of this movie, I should discuss what I think of the other Planet of the Apes movies. Again, now, I just have to say, there are quite a few, so I haven't seen them all, so I'll just go through the Andy Serkis reboot ones. Those are the only ones I've seen. The first one, The Rise of the Planet of the Apes, I liked. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. I mainly loved it for the apes. Again, I just liked it because the humans weren't as fascinating as the apes, but the apes were really good, especially Caesar. He came off as a very sympathetic but also well-developed character who truly built himself to being the leader of the apes that he was born to be. The second one, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes, I loved. That was loved even more. One of my favourite second installments in the movie franchise. I mean, granted, again, one human character kind of made it bad for me, but I thought that the apes were even more better in that movie. They got a bit more attention. There was a great balance between the apes drama and the human drama, and the ending and like the whole second half of that movie really picked up the speed and led to the most intense moments and strong character development, and an ending that leads directly into its last installment recently, War for the Planet of the Apes. And I also thought that was amazing. I mean, the second movie and the third movie are just as amazing as each other. I can't say which one is better, but when the first two films were focusing a bit on the apes mainly, but also had a little bit of focus on the humans, the third one was completely centered around Caesar. He is really the driving force of that movie, with his vengeance and his, like, trying to confront his past, trying to think, is he worthy of leader now that he's in this position of power? And the war with the humans, and having interesting development, the most intense moments in the entire trilogy, and an ending that I thought was so emotional and very satisfying that I thought it was a really great conclusion to those first three movies, and it was a fantastic conclusion to Caesar's story. And speaking of Caesar, the best thing throughout all of these movies was the performance of Andy Serkis. He is honestly at probably my favourite performance of his as Caesar. It's one of his best motion capture performances. So making a movie without him is kind of worrying enough, but I was still excited to see this one because we'll get to see just how smart and intelligent that the apes have gotten all over the years, because really the apes are probably at their most talkative because they talk more in this movie, and we get to see just how brutal and like nature the world is now 300 years into the future, and seeing how people and apes are adaptable now, and I was really interested to see it. Question is, could its new main character be as good as Caesar? Because in my opinion, nobody can beat Caesar in the Planet of the Apes series. So, I went to go see it at the cinema recently, and what do I think of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I could not stop taking my eyes off the screen, just how invested I was in this new world. And I think it might be just as good as the second and the third. Now, the last three are just as good as each other, because the first one is definitely the weakest. I mean, I liked it, but okay, going back to the review. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, I was very invested by, and I'm interested to talk about it in this video. The first big thing I should say about this movie is the effects. The effects are at some of its best, okay? Look at the landscapes, look at the designs of this new world. You just see all of, like, Mother Nature just crumbling over, like, buildings and roads, and you see how decrepit it is. However, you then get some great landscapes to show how free and just adaptable the ape society is, because that is just an excellent place for apes to live in, and the multiple locales that these apes go to, we get to see just how, like, when we compare the first film with this one, you just see the development of the new world just really take front stage, and I think that the way that they look was fantastic. You really feel like you're actually there. Like, I mean, you can tell it's clearly sets, but the environment is just so believable that I'm honestly just following these characters throughout their journey, and that showed how much I was really invested into how the world looked and how invested I was in following these characters. And speaking of the characters, all of them are very memorable and very intriguing, because I wanted to see how comparable I can make these characters to Caesar, Maurice, Rocket from the other few films, but they made them their own characters, this one. We have our new main character, Noah, played by that guy who I can't remember, that guy who played, like, Patrick Hotstetter, I think, from the It movies. He was fantastic as Noah. He made Noah come off as a very intriguing and invested main character that you want to see make it out okay. You love seeing, like, his curiosity about the world, but you can tell that he still has the intelligence of a smart ape, because he can be untrustworthy when he comes across strangers, but has the ability to still give them a chance. And I really loved seeing the relationships that he shared with other characters. I love seeing that kind of blooming romance he shared with that female ape. I love seeing his relationship with his mother. I like seeing him bond with Raka. They came off as very Maurice and Caesar-like, but still making its own thing, with Raka teaching Noah about, like, the history of Caesar's apes. And I really liked the kind of, like, mysterious interactions between Noah and May, because they both come from different backgrounds, and you kind of want to see them learn about each other, and how trustworthy can they be amongst each other, because May has her own insecurities and weaknesses as well, because she is mainly walking around and seeing how humans don't talk nowadays. But she is much more smarter than that. I mean, I won't give too much away, but I think that the actress who plays May was fantastic. I've never seen The Witcher. I think that's what she was in, but I thought she was really great in this movie, and you learn about May a lot more as the film goes on. And Raka, just, you can't go wrong with Raka. I mean, he's just a nice orangutan to be around, okay? Again, he has his untrustworthy moments at first, but you come to learn that he is just like a humble and believable polite orangutan who is like a key to helping Noah learn about why apes and humans can't coexist to begin with, and to help Noah with his character development of bringing peace and questioning, can there really be peace amongst these two different beings? And if Raka ends up in peril, which I won't give away if he's in peril or not, you feel it. You just want to be like, oh, I gotta save that character. That's how lovely he is. And then we have the antagonist of the movie, Proximus Caesar. He is freaking insane and menacing and powerful. Now, I don't want to give away too much about what he does, but he is a very interesting character, because you see just how much power he has. He definitely has dialogue compared to, like, some of the apes who can't talk, but he has, like, these monologues that really make you believe, yeah, This guy is a king. However, unlike Caesar, who was a king, this guy is out for himself. And I won't give away too much as to say how, but wow, when you see the different gorillas that he has by his side and you see how much power he has, you can tell that this is a gorilla you do not want to mess with at all. I mean, granted, I don't think he's as good as a gorilla ape villain as Koba from the second movie, but I still thought he was a very fascinating villain. The story I found to be very invested in. Whenever there's an intense moment, and I'm watching this on a big screen because I saw this in the cinemas, but when I'm watching it on a big screen, I feel the peril. I feel worryiness for the characters, and you've grown so grown to love these characters much that you want to see them make it out okay, and the antagonists you fight off against these characters, you're like, oh, I want those villains to lose. And we get to see Noah's society, and we get to see the community between him and the other apes that I found very invested, like the two friends that he has, that one ape who kind of has like his doubts about like becoming tough, and the female ape who... I feel bad that I forgot her name, but I was really invested in seeing her because that's one of the things that I was really interested about with this movie, is the fact that all of the apes and monkeys and orangutans and all can talk, for the most part, full sentences. And you love to see the dialogue that they want to talk about, and it's written very well. The voice cast and motion capture is honestly at some of its best at all, because man, you really believe those are apes standing in front of a human. You really believe that those apes are with you, working with you, or if they're villainous apes, they're trying to kill you. And you just want to run for your life. It's like, oh my god, I'm running out of life. Oh wait, I'm in a movie. That is how believable this film is. And whenever there's an emotional moment, whenever there's a character development moment, you really get the time to sit down, listen to these characters discuss their troubles, and it can be a pretty sad movie at times, because you remember what Caesar stood for, and whenever something is referenced about those first three movies, your nostalgia gets kind of like in there, like, oh my god, these characters talking about the characters we used to love, but it's kind of like, ugh, the fact that it's 300 years after the original movie. And I guess that means all of the main characters from the first three movies, I guess they're dead now. So it's just kind of like, man, I feel kind of like heartbroken now. But these new characters really make up for that. And I think that the movie had a great length. It was like 2 hours and 25 minutes long. And not only did it kind of rush by, but I feel like that was a good length to really get to know these characters. And I love seeing how the action takes place. The action looks cool, like you feel the punches. You're kind of like having little setups for what could be future movies, because this is the first of a new trilogy. And the ending really speaks for that itself. And it ends on a really good delivering point where you're like, oh my god, there's more to explore, because it definitely indicates there's going to be a sequel. And I have to say, with how good this film was and how good like the reboot era of Planet of the Apes movies is, they better freaking make those sequels, because man, this movie I loved it. I really did. And the last thing that I will say that I loved about this movie was the score. It was straight up just atmospheric, okay? It's atmospheric, and it's heartbreaking to listen to. The emotional beats that the movie has really backs up the score very well, because the music is one of the key parts of what makes these scenes work. I mean, the score has always been like an incredible roller coaster of emotions to listen to throughout these movies, especially in the third one, because the third one have its emotional moments by the end, the credits, Nova's theme. But going back to the Kingdom, I thought that was fantastic. It had new themes, but I can also definitely hear those old themes that was had in the first few films. And again, this movie just captures the world of the Planet of the Apes very well. It stayed true to these three films, and I just thought that it was a very fantastic score to listen to. I can't say that I have many issues with this movie. In fact, I don't really have a lot of issues with the movie. I found it to be a very just captivating continuation of this series from beginning to end, with its emotional beats really sticking home, and I felt for these animals very much. But if I did have one thing that could be seen as a nitpick, but it happens so peripherally throughout the movie, that it's really hard to ignore is that the story is amazing and puts some of these characters in very, very rough positions. But you know what also has that kind of story? The third one. Because I cannot deny how similar and kind of like, in some cases, carbon copy that the story had to the third movie. Because there's a character that has some conflict, it comes back to bite him, and then they journey along to like sort it out, and then getting captured at one point. I won't give too much away, but once you see the movie, you'll know what I mean. And again, I could see this as a nitpick because it was very well done, and I love the story of the third movie, and I love the story of this movie. But there's something about like just the familiarities that I can't just help but feel like, okay, did they kind of copy the third movie a bit? But at the same time, I also see it as kind of a positive as well, because it's kind of like Caesar's spirit is like passing over the torch to Noah, as Noah has to go through these kinds of obstacles and challenges himself, much like Caesar did, so it's kind of like passing the torch on to somebody. And I think that that was a very smart idea. I just couldn't get over the fact that this movie had very similar beats to the third one. But again, it's a problem, but it's nothing that really detrails from the rest of the experience for me. Because overall, guys, I love Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. I really do. Sure, it had similar beats to the previous movies, but I still found it to be a rollercoaster of emotions. I really love seeing these new characters. The apes are always the best parts of these movies, and I could not stop caring about them very much. They came off as very endearing and very, like, pitiful that you just want to see them make it out alive. The human characters, or well, mainly the one human character, May, was very captivating as well. The cinematography and visuals are honestly at some of their best in this series. The score is very emotional and heartbreaking, and I think it was a fantastic continuation of the first three movies. And I cannot wait to see what kind of Planet of the Apes movie they make next after that ending, because it leaves it off wanting more in a sequel, and I cannot wait to see a sequel to this. And I'm going to give this movie 4 3/4 star out of 5. It's close to getting to a 5, I just couldn't get over how similar the story beats were for the original movies. But I still thought it was fantastic. I loved it, and I would definitely love to see it again. But anyway, what do you think of Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes? Do you love it? Do you hate it? And what is your favourite Planet of the Apes film? It could be the original or the reboot. If I had to say which is my favourite, I've only seen like this one, and this one I'm reviewing right now. So out of those 4 movies, which one do I like? I can't pick between the second, third and fourth. Because the first one, again, I think is the weakest. But the next 3 are just so good, I can't choose which one is better. But I'll leave it up to you to decide. Let me know in the comment section below. More videos to come, and I'm Daniel reviewing movies, TV shows, doing videos. I have to look out for the chimparilla. Till then, peace out, man. Let's to it. What a wonderful day. Yeah, that was a bad Proximus Caesar impression.